Today we are looking at projects and how to do project management in Obsidian, personal project management, and the functionality that's available to you. So here off the bat you can see what we're going to build. We have a project page with different properties. Then you can see the top functionality is we have logs and sprints, which comes from your daily note. We follow daily notes first methodology. And you can see basically a breadcrumb trail of exactly what you did in order to complete this project. We're going to build sub-projects. If there's sub-projects to this knee injury, you can pick it up here. All your meetings related to this project is going to be pulling through related notes that you created through the lifespan of this entire project will be picked up here. And obviously some tasks and questions, task management also built in. Now this is the one project page, but there's so many other pages that we'll be building today. Let me quickly show you a couple. Injury MOC, which is the parent of that specific knee injury project. And this way you can just see all your open projects related to injuries. And you can also see your related notes. But then we have the IT band syndrome MOC, which is a knowledge base MOC, which was also created through the lifespan of this project. Now, if we go back to the project page, you can see that these logs and sprints, they are recorded on your daily note. So this is, again, the daily note methodology that we follow. And that's also something that we'll be going through on your daily note. Let's say this is the 23rd of November. On your log pages, this is where you first logged that you had an injury. And that's where this project came to be. And if you go back, you can see that there's multiple days entries. And let's say on the 25th, if we go there, we can see that we had a physiotherapy session. So part of this is going to be meeting management as well. And if we go to the meeting, you can see that we had a meeting, how to use the YAML front-end matter properties in order to tie everything together, and how to send tasks to the appropriate places in your Obsidian. Now, this is a lot of information that we're going to go through. And this is probably one of the most valuable videos I have ever created. It ties Obsidian's functionality together. Everything that I've learned over the past 3-4 years of knowledge management, it all comes together in showing you guys how to do project management. Now, if you don't want to build everything out, all the templates, all the things that I've set up in specific ways that you're going to see throughout this video, you can buy my vault. So what I'm showing you now, this is work that's being done in my evergreen vault. And this should give you a proper head start. It should make that hurdle of learning Obsidian just a little bit lower. So if you don't want to be frustrated, consider buying and supporting me by buying the vault. You can go to my website, which would be in the description of this video as well. And then I also have consulting sessions available. Now, this is where I help people with specific use cases, normally over a 4 to 8 session timeline. But some people prefer just a quick once-off meeting in order to help them with a specific problem. These services and price lists you can also find on my website. Now let's get smarter. So first things first, we create a project. We only create a project when there's a need for a project. In this case, I went to Rome. One morning, I decided to go for a 15 to 20 kilometer run, and I picked up an injury. And it's a little bit persistent. It's something that doesn't go away. And I came to a point after the trip where I thought, okay, this injury is not getting better. It is getting better, but it's still there. So I need to create a project for it because a project has an end date in mind. So in my head, I have a vision for when I won't have an injury anymore. So we create a project. So step 1, let's just start with headings. Create a project. And this is when a need arises for a project. In this case, and this note in the Evergreen Vault, I'm going to change a little bit afterwards just to make it more readable, but I'm just going to go as we go along. In this case, you picked up a persistent knee injury. you create a project. And the project is called Project Knee Injury 2024. I spent a lot of time thinking about what to name notes. And what I've come to realize is it doesn't really matter. You'll figure out your preference as you go along. Honestly, as long as you just use Obsidian persistently, if you use Obsidian religiously, all these notes and naming convention and tags that you use will come to you. You just need to spend some time into it. So for me, I like to preference projects with the project and then anything else that follows as a description of what that project is. So when I look at it, I know it's an injury that I picked up in 2024. And this name might change. This name will change. So later on, I might find out that, oh, it's a ITB band syndrome injury, which it is. Knee injury, IT band syndrome 2024. So later on, when you find more information, you might make it more descriptive. And that's the power of Obsidian. You can always change the notes later on. But for now, let's just keep it here. Could later be renamed as if you think it would make you find it easier in the future. Okay, so we create this note. Project Knee Injury 24. And you can see that I create this page from anywhere in my vault. It doesn't matter. I preach a daily notes first system. If you don't know what it is, go find out and then come back, because my system relies heavily on daily notes first. I feel that's where most of the value comes from. But this project note, it can be created anywhere. As soon as you have this project idea, it has a start, meaning I picked up an injury, and it has an end date when I don't have that injury anymore. Then it's a project. It's in a contained time frame, and hopefully you're going to have tasks associated with getting this project done. So now we have a project template. So the project template, before I activate it, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. Project template. And here we have something like this. We have created, which is going to fill in the date that you create this note on. We have the up, which is very important for projects, because this is going to show which area it should be sent to. We have related. So this can also be the MOC that it relates to, or an area that relates to. Aliases, meaning you can either call it Project Knee Injury 24, or later just come here and fill in Project Knee Injury IT Band Syndrome 2024, so that when you search for something, both names pops up. Tags is type project, and automatically it's going to be status active. And when it's complete, it's going to be status complete. And summary, very important. You want to fill in what this project is about, what the success criteria is in order to complete this project. And then we have logs or sprints. So these are mainly going to be from your daily note. But let's say in this project, you go to a physio, a physical therapy session. You will create a meeting-like note. So you go somewhere to a sports centrum and you go to a physio, and in that meeting, you can put through logs and sprints. So things that you want to send to the specific project, like individual lines. And then we have sub-projects. So these are any projects which has an up, meaning an up as well. That is this .file.link, which is just going to be the specific file name. So in this case, it would be Project Knee Injury 2024. And this just picks up any projects that is basically a subcategory of this main project. So again, for this knee injury, a sub-project might be stretch every day, or go for a run at least once a week, or something like that, which has an end date in mind for when the injury is no longer there. Or read up on ITB band syndrome, or ways to, I don't know, tape your knee and then create notes out of it as a knowledge base for yourself. You can think of anything as a sub-project. In the white collar context, corporate context, or work context. This is a little bit easier because sub-projects might be, like, let's say we work in a specific project to bring out reports. Then we'll have project report generation. And then we might have sub-reports that goes into that report. So report 1.1, report 1.2 might be sub-projects. Bad example, but I hope you get the point. Meetings. These again would be physio sessions in this case. In the corporate field or in the work field, these are just normal meetings that you have with other people. You can see we have participant summary, all those goodies. And the way it picks it up is it's going to go to the up field of a specific node and see if the up is this file, project knee injury 2024. Or we can just say type physio session and we can make it pick it up there as well. So you can see these templates, they're about 90% there, but you need to change it for your specific instance, which means you kind of need to understand how to change individual elements of these data view queries. Then related nodes. These are basically the knowledge base that you're building up. So in the physio session, for instance, the physiotherapist might mention something. This is a correct way to stretch for IT band syndrome. And that might become its own note that you can use in the future. So it might be IT band stretches. And then tasks and questions. These are data view queries that would pull any tasks and any questions from across your vault that relate to this project. So now we have a walkthrough of what the template looks like. And now we're going to use this template in order to create this project knee injury 2024. So on my Mac, it's Command E, or you can put Command P. On Windows, it would be Windows P or something like that. And you would just say templater, and then you can say open insert templater modal. And then you can also see your hotkeys, which that is. So for me, it is Command E. So I'm just going to press Command E. And then you have all your templates, and I'm going to say project template. Now, first thing we can see created, up, related, aliases, tags, summary. So these are the first things that I want to fill in, which relates to this specific page. Now, this project needs to live somewhere, either in an MOC, a map of content, or in an area. And lately I've been trying to play around with what is the difference between area and MOC and a broad classification. And I still use it interchangeably sometimes. But a broad classification is an area, if you think about your house, and this house represents your entire life. Each room would be an area. So let's say you have a room which is classified as health area. And then within this health area room, this whole room, is everything dedicated to your health ambitions in your life. And this is where you would find different MOCs and stuff like that, and different resources and ongoing projects. But MOCs basically just points to something. So you might find MOCs within this room, this area. And an MOC might be leg stretches MOC, or physio or therapy session MOC. And it's just a place that points to specific bits and pieces of information. It doesn't really need to make sense. If this confuses you, just choose one and start working with it. It doesn't matter. For me, I would say that this relates to a couple of things. So you can put multiple areas, multiple MOCs as a parent. So where would I like to see this project? Well, first of all, I would like to see it in my health area. So my health room, or physical health area. And if we go to breathing mode, we also want to see it in the injury MOC, so map of content. So you can see there's two places which we want to be able to retrieve this information. And we can see that we can either go find it in physical health, which is in a room, or to a specific map of content, which would just show us all the injuries we've had across our lives and the projects associated with them. So let's just stick with that for now. And these can always change. They're very subjective. So don't get too caught up in these. All you need to know is a project always needs to relate to some area or some MOC. That's the most important thing. We want to be able to find this project again. It needs to live somewhere. It can't just be floating around by its lonesome self. Okay, and next thing, we want to give it some tags. So this is on injury, and we can say on injury knee. We could be very descriptive, and yeah, let's just keep it like that for now. And then we give a quick summary. I picked up an injury in September 2024. Success criteria or closing criteria is to not have any pain while running. Okay, so now we have a project. Congratulations. And if we open up the local graph, so I pressed Command P to open up local graph. We need to be on this local graph. You need to be on the page and then open up local graph. You can see this project already relates to a couple of things. It relates to this guide because it was mentioned there, but it also relates to injury and physical health areas. So area, MOC. So that's pretty cool. So we have a place that we can go find all the information related to this specific injury that we picked up in 2024. So create projects, and then we will say create parents. And in this case, it was injury MOC, and above it would be health, physical health area. Again, very subjective, but just a rule of thumb is just find something to tie it back up to. So in the future, if you want to go find this knee injury, you can go either to injury MOC, that's quite easy, or physical health, which you'll then find the injury MOC. Or you can just have a standalone. This doesn't even need to tie back up to physical health. It's very subjective. Just create a parent. And let's quickly do that. So we've created a project knee. Let's create the injury MOC because that's the one that makes most sense at this point in time. So let's create an injury MOC. You can see we're in the injury MOC. And let's create an area template. I think it's pretty much the same as an MOC. Doesn't matter. And this might tie back up to physical health. Or it might not. Let's just keep it. You see, this is where it's a little bit subjective of where it ties back up to. Because we can tie it back to physical health, which I think we should. Physical health area. And this is not a type area. This is a type MOC. And this is a home page for all the physical injuries we pick up. Okay. And within the injury MOC, we might have other MOCs that gets created. So we might have an IT bands syndrome MOC, which is going to be related to everything we did in the project, which helped in order to get rid of this condition so that we can run again. So it's basically muscles that's a little bit too stretched or too tight or something like that, and you need to fix it. So we can have different MOCs. But here we can see logs or sprints related to it, sub-projects or areas, and we just want to see if the project knee injury pulls through. And we close this, and we close this, and related notes. You can see that sub-projects or areas, we can see that these are the projects that pop through. So top, project status, wonderful. And then I picked up something here, which, do we want this at related notes? Maybe, but it's already popping up there. So we might need to change the code. And this is, again, you need to have a little bit of data view knowledge in order to change basically only the where conditions. And the columns that's being retrieved. So a session need to be note, for instance. So you can see note, project injury, created summary. But in this case, we don't want to show notes that has a tag called MOC. So if we go back here, we can see that this is a type project. And sorry, we don't want to retrieve notes that is a type project because it's already going to be returned under this heading. So we say we keep everything here and not, so exclamation mark for not contains, I contains just makes it case insensitive, the little I at the beginning. We say tags, and what do we want it not to contain is going to be type project. And now when we go back to reading mode, we expect to see nothing under related notes, because here's where we want to see notes related to injury management. So this might be the other types of MOCs that we create, which is valuable to injuries. And we don't see anything anymore, so that's great. So we've created the injury MOC. So it ties back up to something, ties back to the injury MOC, where we're going to see all our injuries. And later on, when this is closed, we can have an open projects and a closed projects division. So we might create this now as well. Open, closed. So these are subheadings for the sub projects. We can take this out because it's not really going to be areas. And we can say where what it's currently saying is where the up contains this file link, and it contains type project, and or it contains type area. So let's just keep that in, and we say and it I contains tags status active. And again, you can choose whatever hashtag you want to use. Then we can copy over this open data query, and we can just say status closed. So we can see nothing under closed, but when we change this, let's go to edit mode. You can see the YAML front-end matter. If we change the status active to status closed, we expect this to jump from here to here. And there we see, doop, it jumped. Nice. Let's make it active again. So that's it for our injury MOC. Small tweaks to the injury MOC data views. Now the next thing that we want to do is we need to start populating this project with information. Logs or sprints is stuff that efforts towards completing this project. Sub-projects might be things related to sub-projects that we have, which is clear sub-projects. And this might be the physio stretches that we need to do. And we can create sub-projects if we feel that it's big enough to become its own sub-project, or we can just track everything. And yeah, meetings would be like physio sessions. You can even change its name. Related notes, these are just notes that's created from this whole project. So again, we might create permanent or atomic notes, which is stretches that you need to do in order to get rid of your condition, and tasks and questions. Now, how do we start using it? The way that I normally populate this type of data, and if we just close all the headings, we can see that there's a quite succinct project note. The way that I normally like to use it is, let's say we are on the daily note, and at 8 a.m., this is where we log sprint. And this is logs from daily note. So this is where we're going to specify how we actually use our daily note in order to push information through. And if we go back here, we close this, create a little bit more space for ourselves. The log sprint. At 8 a.m., this might be when we picked up the injury. So we can say log sprint, and this is also where you can create the project for the first time. It doesn't really matter. So log sprint on, and this is an effort towards a project or an area. So project knee injury 2024. And then you can indicate that you want this specific log to be sent to your injury MOC as well, but you don't have to, as long as it just gets sent to the project, which you can then find in the open sub-projects in the injury MOC. So project knee injury, I picked up a knee injury from running 15 kilometers through Rome. Sharp pain on the outside of my leg, my knee. Caused pain while walking the next couple of days. So now when we go to project knee injury, we can start seeing all of these sprints. So as soon as you have something that feels like it's going to be persistent, it feels like it's going to be a project, you can quickly capture it. So when you create a project, it's either to be able to create tasks and keep track of it, or it is there for record keeping purposes. So you want to keep track of your health, and this is a little bit of a setback to your health. So you want to track injuries and you want to track how you got rid of them. So there's always multiple purposes for projects. So for this case, it is two-sided. I want to keep track of it and I want to get rid of it. So a project serves both those purposes. These logs sprints, keeps a breadcrumb trail for yourself to see from start to finish how you finished a project. So that was on 2024-11-23. So this left-hand note, this is more of an instruction for people learning how to use projects. So this is not something you will create, but this is just for people using this vault, essentially. We created the first log for this project, indicating we picked up an injury. So this was just the first log. We picked up an injury. Let's say a couple days later, the 25th, we pick up, we want to do something about it. So log sprint on project knee injury 2024. And as soon as you pop that up, it should pop up here. And then we just start filling in the details. Pain is persistent, even when sitting. Not getting better with rest, ice, elevate. I don't know what the C stands for. And now we want to create a task for ourselves. So task, set up physio session for this week. And we need to indicate where this task is going to. So for now, if we close up this logs and sprints, you can see under tasks and questions, there's nothing that popped up. But if we fill in project knee injury 2024, am I spelling physio wrong? So physiotherapy, no, that's fine. Therapy session. We can see that the task pops up here. So this is a task that we can then pop up. And then we can close everything down because that's it for the day. We haven't gotten to a task yet. We haven't gotten to a task yet. So let's say we close everything down and we suddenly on the next day, we remember that, like, oh, okay, we need to do something related to that project because I still feel the pain. We can just open up that project knee injury 2024. And we can see that we have an open task. So this is where we can quickly see our tasks and questions. We have open tasks. Oh yes, I need to book a physiotherapy session. And what I like to do is I like to go into that note, and I would like to say I completed this task, let's say on the next day, just to keep track of when you actually did create or finish that task. And then I like to put in the therapy session or the meeting that you're going to have. So let's say it is going to be on the 27th. Physiotherapy session with Niels. And here we have the date, which the physio session is going to take place. We say physiotherapy session, and we say with who it's going to be. And then we can mark this task as complete. So now if we go back to knee injury, we can see that we have no open tasks, and the closed task, we already booked in that session. And where would we want to see that physiotherapy session? Well, we would like to see it under meetings or physio sessions. Doesn't really matter. You can rename it as you like. So let's say on the 27th, we have the physiotherapy session at 1 o'clock. What we do, and let's just open the project again so we can follow along. And let's maybe go to live preview mode. We go to appearances, now editor, source mode. Currently we're switching between reading mode and source mode. Now let's switch between reading mode and live preview mode. And that just makes it easier to read while we're editing. So at 1 AM, what we're going to do now is we are going to fill in a sprint, because what we're doing now is we're doing at 1 PM, we're doing an effort, a sprint towards finishing this project, knee injury. So we're going to do log sprint, and we will say it is on project knee injury 2024. And we can also say, because it's going to be a meeting, we can say it is a log physio session or log meeting, whatever you choose. And then we have the physio session here, 27th, because we already created it. So let's create this physiotherapy session. So now we are going to go to the sports center, and we are going to have the physiotherapy session with Niels. We're going to create a meeting note template, and you can see that let's just delete that again, meeting note template. There we go. You can see that we have a couple of properties which we need to fill in. So up, where should this be sent to? Well, this should be sent to project knee injury 2024, participants, Niels, physiotherapy guy, and summary, my first physiotherapy session regarding the knee injury. And these could just be any notes that was taken. Went to location, physiotherapy, met Niels, some information regarding Niels, because we might want to create Niels as well. So let's do that as well. So let's create some space here for ourselves. So you can see from projects, there's a lot of other notes that gets created. And then our evergreen vault and work vault and daily roller vault, we also have people templates. And these might be some things which you need, some things which you might not need. So we can fill in all of this We can just say, what type is he? He's a type physiotherapist related to project knee injury. Summary: Dutch guy specializing in running injuries. And this is where we can see logs related to this guy. And we can see we don't have any logs, so this one we can turn into a log. He is 25, lives in Amsterdam. And we can see that we can send information to Niels. So we can see the last time we contacted him, we can see all the logs related to him. So this is when we met him. So this is just how the information flows. So on the project page, information can be sent to multiple places. So now we created Niels. You can also create the location where you go. You can create it similar to the people template. And you can also have like location physiotherapy, that if you want to see all the meetings that you had or physio sessions that you had at location physiotherapy, whatever you want to call it, you can create that page, and it will be a kind of MOC. And then it won't just be meetings related to physiotherapy that you had, well, to this knee physiotherapy. Let's say you pick up another injury with whatever other sport you do. It might be a tennis elbow. And if you go to this location physiotherapy, both those meetings will pop up under location physiotherapy. And let's just say there's a task for project knee injury. So Neil said that we need to do a couple of exercises. Before the next session, we need to go for a run to recreate the pain sensation. Let's say, don't know if that's good advice. Sensation. And we might have another task. Task for knee injury. Set up the next physio session with, and we might want to send this to Niels as well. Niels. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. We created a meeting from the daily note. So started at the daily note. We log sprint, log physio session, project knee injury. So we can see it here. So we can see that this is the timeline of events. This is where we first picked it up on the 23rd. This is where we started to create tasks for ourselves. And the 27th is when we actually had the physiotherapy session. So on the 27th, we can see we had the physiotherapy session with Niels. We created that note. You can see project knee injury 2024. And we filled in some of the metadata. Here's the notes that we took, and here's the tasks that we have. Now, where would we want to see all of this? Well, we want to see it under the meetings. And this is where we have the physiotherapy session that pops up. Just make this a little bit bigger. You can see that we have physiotherapy, even have the summary, related notes. You can see, do we want this to pop up under related notes? Probably not. So this is where we need to go change the data view code again. And we can say that we need to create another condition. So what it's currently saying is where up contains this file link, and this file link in this case is the project knee injury 2024. This is the up metadata property of another note. So if you go to this, you can see the up is equal to project knee injury 2024. Then we have an or condition. So it's either this or this condition, then return this note. And you can see you need to fill in a tag here. So we'll just keep that if you want an additional tag. But let's just say, and I contains tags, and we want it not to contain. So we use an exclamation mark. Where not contains tags, type meeting or physiotherapy session. Just type physio session. So you can either use physio session or meeting, whatever your preference is, and we just need to close this. So let's see what it looks like. That's what we need to do. So just be aware of the brackets. So this basically is one condition, which has this or this. And then this is the second condition, which only had one condition. So this and ties the first one together, the first where condition and the second where condition. And now it should work. Let's just see. Contains up all tags, and I contains tags. We didn't have the closing quote marks. Now you can see it doesn't pop up, and that's what we want, because we're already seeing this note under meetings. Okay. Task and questions. We expect from this physiotherapy session with Niels, we expect to see these tasks, because both of them refers to Project Knee Injury 2024, Project Knee Injury So this is where we want to see the open tasks which we need to do. So let's say we created another session for our physiotherapy. Finish this task on the same day. And then we give when the session is going to be. Let's say it is the 29th. We're going to say something similar. Physiotherapy session 2 with Niels. And now we can create it, and then it's just an ongoing process. And we can check that off. So now it's not going to appear here anymore. If we give it a couple of seconds, it will appear under the closed tasks. Now we only have one, go for a run to recreate the pain sensation. And this is where you can fill in the details as well. It's like, oh, I went for a run. And then you need to basically indicate in the next session what the run outcomes were. That's an easy way to manage the tasks. You might also think of, well, I have tasks related to Niels, the physiotherapist. So you might just think of opening up Niels, and there should be tasks associated with Niels as well. And here we can see there's a task associated with him that we already closed. And that's essentially how we do project management. Now let's say in the next session, which is on the 29th, and this is where we're going to end this example. On the 29th, we have our next physiotherapy session. So we say log sprint and log physio session. And this is on Project Knee Injury 2024. And then we have the knee injury physio session 2 with Niels. We do the same thing. We create this from the daily note. Just drag this here to make it more readable. We create a meeting, or you can create another template called therapy session. So type meeting, type physio, type physio session, summary, second session where I got dry needling treatment. Participants, Niels. Up is going to be the Project Knee Injury 2024. And notes. Outcome of run. So we went for that run. So let's go to that run and we say the outcome intense pain, for instance. Log it in 2024-11-29 Fissure session. And this is when we come here, notes, outcome of run. I had intense pain. And let's say we take a step back. So let's say earlier that day, let's say the physiotherapy session was at 8. At 5 a.m. we actually went for that run. So this would then be log exercise run, for instance, and then log well, yeah, I would say related to, well, it would be log sprint as well, to log effort on project knee injury 2024. Had intense pain after kilometer 6. Stingy on outside of left knee. So this is how we can send it to the project page as well. So if we go back, we can see that we finished this task. So you can finish this task from anywhere that we had on the specific 27th. We finish it. So now we can see all our closed tasks that we've finished so far. And all these tasks are things that we need to do. So you can think of every single time when you want to work on this project, you come to this project page and you can see all the open tasks. But you can also see all the tasks that you have completed throughout the lifetime of this specific project. So we close it up, we go to log and sprints. We can see that on the 27th, project knee injury, on the 29th, we should see this as well, but why don't we? Oh, because it's not in our log format. There we go. So now we can see we had a run, and this was the outcome. I had intense pain after kilometer 6. So this is normally an exercise, which would go to the exercise MOC. But in this case, we can also push a log sprint through to the project knee injury because it's part of the knee injury project. So that's how we can push information back and forth to different areas. And if we go back to the physiotherapy, you can say that the outcome had intense pain, sting on outside. And now we have new tasks. Task on project knee injury 2024, foam roll hip muscle, and specific stretch. So this is a task which we can then again see in our tasks on the open, but we can also now see this specific physiotherapy session or meeting under the meetings. Now we have a nice little breadcrumb trail of all the physiotherapy sessions that we had and the outcomes of it, and a quick summary of it, so we can see if these are effective or not. But now we're going to add another dimension on top of all of this, because this is where we are actually going to start create information from our projects. So for this, it's going to be upper hamstring stretch for IT band syndrome. And this becomes a note. This becomes a piece of information, which is basically strips away from the context of this specific injury, this knee injury that we're having. It becomes a note which we can then use in the future. So when we create the IT band syndrome MOC, which is if we incur this injury in the future again, we want a home place for all the notes that we have gathered throughout the previous time we had it. So this is where this becomes quite valuable. So new note template. We have created, updated tags. So this would be on injury knee, on IT band syndrome, on recovery, something like that. A specific stretch for when you have IT band syndrome. And this would be on stretching as well. And then you can tie this back up. You can add an up property if this specifically relates to a specific MOC that you have in mind. IT band. I don't know why we're screaming. Syndrome MOC. So you can create an MOC. Or you can just tie it to injury. You want it to be sent to the injury MOC. And we already created the injury MOC. So if we go to the injury MOC, we don't have any logs or sprints specifically related. So we can maybe take this out, because this is not where we want to see the logs and sprints, because we have the sub-projects, which is the project knee injury. And here we can see all the sprints related to that specific injury. Meetings might also not be necessary because it's not related to a specific project. But related notes, yes. That is where we want to see our information related to injuries. So upper hamstring stretch for IT band syndrome. And then we might have a place called MOCs or related MOCs. And this is where we might create a data query which would pull in, for instance, the IT band syndrome MOC. And then we might not want to pull in this upper hamstring stretch here into our injury, but we might want to pull it into our IT band syndrome, and I spelled it wrong, but it's fine, MOC. Okay, so there's a couple of places we want to see. We want to see the related notes here as well. So upper hamstring stretch, we can see related. So this is not necessarily up because it's not a child of this necessarily, but we can add a related. What was this related to? Well, we can say project knee injury 2024, and then we can change this related code just a little bit. We can add another or condition. So in this one, we can say or, and I just copy this I contains. And we just add another one related this file link, and then it should work. Yeah, so that makes sense to me. Niels, physiotherapy guy, he's related. Upper hamstring stretch for IT band, that's also related. Now we have a full working project. If you ask me, this is a pretty comprehensive system. You have ways to keep track of tasks and questions that you want to ask. You have related notes that you create. And this is, for me, the most important part of this whole system is creating these type of notes, upper hamstring stretch for IT band syndrome, because this is not related directly to this project knee injury. This can be reused in the future. So if somebody was talking about certain knee injuries that they have, and you remember, well, I have a couple of notes related to knee injuries, and you can quickly go to this upper hamstring stretch, you can see that there's MOCs, and the MOCs would also be related here, by the way. So the MOC for IT band syndrome, so this guy, if we create it, area template, why not? And we just change this to be type MOC, and related is project knee injury 2024. MOC for all IT band syndrome related content. So then we can see that, okay, well, this is all the stuff related to ITB band syndrome. Let's just change this. ITB band syndrome, and this is where we might host all the stretches that we have. So we might have a sub MOC in this one, which is called RT band syndrome stretches. And that would be, well, we won't necessarily have meetings for this. We can take that out. Sub-projects and areas. This is where we would have the sub-MOCs. So this all sounds very complex, but if you just watch this video again and understand how to change the state view queries, because you always have a starting point. And it just changes to type MOC. That's fine. Related notes. You can see that we still need to change something here on the related notes, where up contains this file link. That was just a little bit of a bug. So here we can see related notes. Related notes, upper hamstring stretch for RT band syndrome. So this is where you can find specific things related to RT band syndrome. And the project related notes, related projects might also be here. Up or related, this file.link. Yeah, you can see you can play around a little bit. Tasks and questions, not really relevant here. Logs and sprints also not really relevant here. So the only thing that you want to point in MOCs to is sub-MOCs, so RT band syndrome stretches and the related notes, list of related notes. And this is just ways to navigate. And I think this is pretty cool. If you open up the graph view, then we start going through this project graph. Let's just close this. So here we can see RTB band project knee injury. So this is where we are with the project knee injury. And this is all the notes that relates to it. You can see Niels is related. These dates, we did something related to on it. Injury MOC, the physiotherapy sessions is related to it. So you can start clicking through it. So let's say on the 27th, why was that related? Like, oh, we had a physiotherapy session. So we click on the physiotherapy session. What does that relate to? Oh, it relates to a bunch of things. So why does it relate to this specific one? That's quite interesting. On the 25th, we can see that somewhere on this page, it would be on the 25th. Oh, because this is inbound and outbound. So if we just click outgoing links from this node, we can see that the outgoing links location was created here. This day is related here because on finish this task on the 27th. We have the physiotherapy session 2. So we can even go there. And even in related, you can have stuff like this. Session 1. And then when we go there, we can say the next session was session 2. So you can easily hop between the different sessions. And nothing is set in stone. This whole process is very subjective. It relates to how you want to use it. But these metadata properties just makes it a little bit easier for you to take control out of organizing the information. It's a guideline for you to help you organize information. And I would say that's about it. So to quickly run through what we created in this walkthrough. We created a project. Then we created its parents. So if we create the project, this is the first step. We created the outline for this project. And in the properties, we created the injury MOC. So this is what we created next. We created the injury MOC, which we have related MOCs. So RTB band syndrome pops up here, sub-projects, project knee injury, all the open projects related to injuries. We have related notes, cool, tasks and questions, which again, it could actually just be deleted here. Doesn't need to be. But if you found value that you want to push it through to injury MOCs as well, it's fun. Then we started to create logs. So if you go back to our project log, we created the origin of this injury on the 23rd. Then on the 25th, we created another log or sprint with a task. Then the task was to create a physiotherapy session. Then on the 27th, we had the therapy session. You can see on the 29th, we went for a run. Log run, log therapy session. Therapy session 2 with Niels. And from these notes, that's basically where we created notes. So from this note, the therapy session, we created upper hamstring stretch. Notes created from this note was the upper hamstring stretch. And the previous one, note created from this, was location physiotherapy. Notes created from this note, location physiotherapy, and we created Niels, the physiotherapy person. We can add tasks, go for a run, and set up next session. And here, tasks, if we go to 2, if we go to physiotherapy session number 2, the tasks that we had for ourselves was foam rolling. And then lastly, we created MOC to host information. And this MOC was RT band syndrome MOC. And if you go to project knee injury, subprojects, no subprojects, meetings, related notes, we have this guy. And this is where we would find all information related to RT band syndrome. And that's our project workflow. So we touched on a couple of things. We touched on how to create projects, how to tie it up to parents. We touched on how to do the log reduce methodology, log, relate, discover, from our daily notes or from our meeting notes that ties up to the specific parent notes. Also, obviously, the daily notes first methodology, because the daily notes first is where we log most of the information. So we can see on the 25th, this is where we had a sprint. On the 27th, this is where we had a sprint, and everything else basically are created from these jump off points in our days. And that's it for the project workflow for the knee injury 2024.